took my love, I took it down. I climbed a mountain and I turned around, and I saw my reflection in the snow-covered hills, and the landslide brought me down. Oh, mirror in the sky, what is love? Can the child within my heart rise above? Can I sail through the changing ocean tides? Can I handle the seasons of my life? Well, I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I built my life around you. But time makes you bolder, even children get older, and I'm getting older too. Oh, I'm getting older too. Take this love, take it down. If you climb the mountain and you turn around, you will see my reflection in the snow-covered hills, till the landslide bring it down. If you see my reflection in the snow-covered hills, maybe the landslide will bring it down. Oh, the landslide will bring it down.
Thank you, Julie. Beautiful rendition, very emotional. Appreciate it. Well, good morning. Top of the morning to you all. I see a lot of people wearing green, including myself, even though I don't have a drop of Irish in me, I might as well. Welcome to Unitarian Universalist Church West at this time, so near the spring equinox, March 2024, in Brookfield, Wisconsin. Now 4 years after the beginning of the pandemic. Remember that? Well, here we are, together in fellowship and community to sustain us. Here in this place, in gratitude for the privilege of living and gathering on traditional territory of past and present Native peoples of the Seven Councils Fires, Ho-Chunk, Kickapoo, Potawatomi, Menominee, Peoria, and Miami nations. To do our work of living fully into our values, we are conscious of the history of their erasure and beholden to do the work of reconciliation and reparation. We are committed to being a welcoming community to gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual, and queer plus peoples, and we know we have much work to do to live into that promise to you, and to continue to call out and address with each other and the larger world the homophobia, violence, and injustice that continues to harm you and all of us who love you and are not separate from you. And as an anti-racist faith community, we acknowledge the racism throughout society that leads to the violent deaths and oppression of Jews, Black, Indigenous peoples, and other people of color. May we commit again and again to do the hard work of dismantling white supremacy culture in our hearts, in our community, and in our world. Our community of UUCW expands beyond these walls to those of you who are joining us virtually. Wherever you are, right now, whatever your age and color and gender, your pronouns, the abilities and disabilities you hold, however you define family, whomever you love, whatever your sacraments and chosen beliefs, you are welcome here. We unite in UU principles, called to work for justice, in covenant and in the spirit of love. I'm Lynn Capitan. My pronouns are she and her, and I joyfully serve on your board of trustees. Truly, it's a joy. I've also been on the stewardship team for, I don't know, a dozen years or so. And boy, I remember how 4 years ago, we had this marvelous storytelling night. Some of you may remember this, to kick off our annual pledge campaign, barely more than 1 week before the pandemic arrived and shut everything down, and we couldn't see each other face to face for months and years after that. Wow. And yes, today, with Reverend Julie, we will contemplate the power of transformation and where it has led us. Now, to help everybody feel a bit more oriented, let me share a few housekeeping items. If you are new to UCW, a warm welcome to you. You are invited to fill out the welcome side of the yellow form that you received when you came in, and also check out the newcomers table in the community room after the service, where you can ask questions and pick up more information. And if you're online and you want to connect, please email us at visitor@uucw.org. That's visitor@uucw.org. We are a multi-generational community with ways for all ages to participate. Our nursery opens each week at 9:45. Our religious education classes begin after the story for all ages in the service, and our youth group meets at 11:30. Except for next week, March 24th, due to spring break, there will be no RE. But every Sunday, all ages are welcome here in the sanctuary. We have a worship exploration table over there for those of us who listen better when our hands are busy, so feel free to join them at any time. And then finally, let me also call attention to just a couple of announcements on the announcements page in your order of service, which I hope you will take home and refer to throughout the week. Here are a few. Number 3, have you completed and updated your pledge form yet? Would you please, please, please do that? Help us go boldly forth where we have never gone before. That's our theme. We need to wrap up our boldly going forth in the next 2 weeks so that we can develop our budget for the next year and submit it to the congregation at the annual meeting. So all these things hinge on getting your pledge form in. We would really appreciate it if you could do that. And also, if you're curious or have questions about UUCW's financial health, please come to an information meeting in UL4 today after the service. You're welcome, and we will answer all kinds of questions that you may have, share information, and there will also be some cookies to tempt you. Also, number 8, meet with Reverend Julie this coming Tuesday at 5 p.m. if you want to help UUCW relaunch our Social Action Council. That's a great movement forward. Number 13, a fabulous opportunity is coming up. It's UU's Regional Assembly, and it happens to be in Madison on April 19th and 20th. There's going to be wonderful speakers and workshops, and it's going to be so accessible for us. Let's go, okay? More information and registration details are in last Thursday's e-news. And number 9, stick around next Sunday for a conversation after the service. It has been redesigned to focus on shared ministry at UUCW, a very timely topic as we move forward toward our settled minister, and everyone is encouraged to join. It will be preceded by potluck. Okay, now that we have the business of coming together squared away, let's settle in and center ourselves as we enter into this time of attending to matters of worth. We'll begin by singing hymn number 128, For All That Is Our Life.
For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for bars of rest and love,
As we continue looking at the gift of transformation, today's service looks back at 4 years ago and the many transformative experiences that followed the pandemic's beginnings. This poem by Lynn Unger was penned during that time. It's called The Last Good Days. What will you do with the last good days? Before the seas rise and the skies close in, before the terrible bill for all our thoughtless wanting finally comes due. What will you do with the last fresh morning, filled with the watermelon scent of cut grass, an insistent bird calling sweet, sweet across the shining day? Crops are dying, economies failing, men crazy with the lust for power and fame are shooting up movie theaters and engineering the profits of banks. It is entirely possible it only gets worse from here. How can you leave your heart open to such a vast, pervasive sadness? How can you close your eyes to the riot of joy and beauty that remains? The solutions, if there are any to be had, are complex, detailed, demanding. The answers are immediate and small. Wake up, give thanks, sing. Indeed, let us wake up and give thanks as we sing and worship together. And now let's light our chalice.
When Unitarian Universalists gather, we light a chalice, a flame in an open cup. This ritual and the chalice symbol represents both the fiery center of this faith and the space for all those who could join us. If you're joining us online, you may contribute to our communal fire by creating a light there in whatever way you're able. Our chalice lighting words were written by Amy Carroll Webb and are called Sacred Unknowing. I invite you to read them with me. We light this flame for the art of sacred unknowing, humbled by all that we cannot fathom in this time. We come into the presence of what we do know, perhaps the only thing we can ever know, that love is now and forever, the only answer to everything and everyone in every moment. With these words reminding us that indeed, love is the only answer to everything, we light our chalice.
Good morning. Once again, if anyone would like a closer view of some of the pictures, we have a couple cushions and on the blanket up front here. You're welcome to come on up. And I'll introduce myself. I'm Dave Cicero, Director of Lifespan Religious Education here at UU Church West. My pronouns are he and his. So today I'm telling a story by Becky Brooks, and it's titled Tiny the God. I'm reading it with permission of Worship Web, an online resource since 2001 of words for Unitarian Universalist worship and personal spiritual practice. Once upon a time, there was a tiny little, itty-bitty, very small, tiny little god named Tiny, and she lived her life hearing stories about all the big gods. And, well, let's face it, she was a bit jealous. She knew that she needed to think of some kind of special spark of an idea that would make her existence meaningful. A tiny little god among all these big ones. Now, after watching humans for a long time, she hit upon something that she thought just might work. Something to make people think, yeah, that Tiny has got a really good idea going. This was going to make her famous. Ready for it? Here it is. You are not alone. Tiny took the form of a very light breeze, and in a voice so quiet that each person heard it only in their mind. She said, "You are not alone. You are not alone." People loved it, because who doesn't want to hear that? So pretty soon, Tiny was comforting people all over with, "You are not alone." Can everybody repeat that with me? You are not alone. Every evening, she took the form of a breeze and whispered it into people's minds. What was it? You are not alone. Until one day, she encountered someone who was not comforted at all. When Miriam heard Tiny's words in her mind, instead of feeling comforted, she felt agitated. Something was just kind of off about it. Miriam kept saying to herself over and over again, "You're not alone, you're not alone." She tossed, she turned, she couldn't sleep at night. In the morning, she went to read the paper. And instead of skimming everything, she found herself reading through every single news story. She was only halfway through when she found herself crying. "I am not alone," Miriam said. "I am connected to every one of these other people. They live in my country, they live in my town, and in my world. They love their children like I love mine. They're scared sometimes, and so am I. They hurt like I hurt. I'm not alone." But, she thought, I can help. Now, Tiny was surprised. It hadn't occurred to her that someone might think of it that way. So Tiny the God kept watch over Miriam to monitor this interesting development. Miriam and a coworker met online, talked about a law they thought the assembly should pass. And Tiny noticed when Miriam wrote a letter to a representative about it right away. She noticed when Miriam bought a few extra things at the grocery store for her neighbor and left them with a colorful note on their porch. She noticed that Miriam had tears in her eyes when she joined her congregation's worship on her computer and heard her favorite hymn through the small speakers. Miriam got out her phone, made an extra donation to that congregation. She watched as Miriam wrote postcards to friends and family, waved to the dog walkers who passed by, strung up colorful lights in her living room window. But most importantly for Tiny, she noticed when Miriam received a phone call one evening from a friend who she had not heard from in a long while. His voice was shaking. "I'm having a hard time," he said. He started to tell her about his troubles and began to cry. Miriam got herself comfortable in her favorite chair. "Take your time," she said. "I'll stay on the line with you. You're not alone. I am here." I am here. Tiny heard those words like an echo in her mind. You're not alone. I am here. Let's repeat that. You are not alone. I am here. In that moment, Tiny knew that she was nothing without Miriam's hands and heart and spirit. She knew what she wanted. What the world needed more than anything was what Miriam had learned to give. So Tiny went to work. Instead of just spending her evenings spreading the gospel of "you are not alone," she spent pretty much every moment doing it until she just became the breeze itself. And that's why there are no pictures of Tiny the God. No busts, no holy books, just a breeze, a low voice, and many, many helping hands, loving hearts, and caring spirits. I'm sure yours are among them. And you can hear the echo if you listen closely. You are not alone. I am here. Let's repeat that. You are not alone. I am here. When a meal is delivered or served to a family or individual in crisis, you are not alone. I am here. When a volunteer escorts a patient into Planned Parenthood, you are not alone. I am here. At the bedside of a dying relative, you are not alone. I am here. In the jailhouse, in the sanctuary, you are not alone. I am here. Separate and together, you are not alone. I am here. May this message continue to spread. Now, Eva has agreed to light our lantern, so if you could go up there. And if those children, youth, teachers, and mentors would come up front and follow Eva out of the sanctuary to our religious education classes, we will all sing our recessional. As you go, may joy surround you. As you go, go in peace. Know our love is with you always.
May joy surround you as you go. Go in peace. Know our love is with you always as you go, as you go. Do you remember how during the pandemic we all said that things would not, could not, should not ever return to normal? About how our common predicament was leveling injustice and inequity and how we would be changed by it. How did that go for us? Things were so hard, and I suppose we were looking for silver linings. And of course, how we came out of it depends on how you look at it. A couple of weeks ago, my friend Ziza, back in Peterborough, Ontario, presented to the city council there as poet laureate. They don't reference the pandemic in this poem, but there's a similar sense of that pandemic feeling that all that is lost exists right alongside dogged hope. They talk of some specific things going on in Peterborough, but it's all real life, so let's listen.
In January, I was invited to offer council a Welcome to the New Year address. I wrote many drafts of poems, but I could not find my voice. I just kept asking myself, how can I wish you a happy new year? How can I wish you a happy new year when homelessness, addiction, and illness are rising as fast as the seas? When isolation has driven so many of my friends to despair, to poverty, to the streets? How can I pretend that the flip of a calendar page means any more this year than it did the last? How can I wish you a happy new year when democracy feels more like a dream of the past, while the ice caps shrink and the temperatures soar, when children are being killed for the mere fact of their gender or where they were born? How can I wish you a happy new year when a Hiroshima's worth of bombs continue to drop on Gaza? When political allegiances blind our own leaders to 22,000 killed, millions displaced, lands depleted, bodies dismembered, entire bloodlines memorialized, eventually I realized I can't. I can't wish you a happy new year. I can't wish you a happy new year because I myself am not happy. Most days I'm not able to get out of bed. My children get themselves breakfast, get themselves out the door. I lay immobile for hours, waiting for the motivation to fight gravity. Depression grinds my bones to dust. My therapist says this is what grief looks like. I started this year with illness in my family, 3 funerals, visits to the hospital. I smile when I visit, tell good stories. I hold my elder's hand. I ask Jean if she wants to sit in silence. She looks surprised, warns me she will probably nod off. For a minute or so, there is nothing but deep presence, a tender hand that has been feeling for 101 years nestled into my palm, skeletal finger bones fluttering like a baby bird's new wings. I loosen my hand. Did she fall asleep? Her lids float open, her eyes are full of tears, no words spoken, we take each other in this way. All grief wants from us is our presence. It doesn't need us to pretend we are happy. It doesn't need us to fix the problem. What grief needs is for us to be brave enough to feel. So to all those who are struggling like I am, this poem is for you. To tell you that your presence is beautiful, is everything. Your attention to the pain in this world is necessary. I'm here to tell you that your tears are medicine. If you can, let them fall onto the snow. Let them be kissed by the wind. When you can't get out of bed, when you can't muster a smile, when you can't figure out why the things you used to love don't stir you anymore, I won't tell you to feel any differently than you do. Your sadness needs space. Your despair needs a voice too. And here's the thing. The reason you are sinking under so much weight, the reason your sadness is powerful enough to paralyze you, the reason you feel so much is that you know a better world is possible. The optimism is not a denial of the challenges that face us. Optimism is the radical knowing that we can rise to the occasion. When I ask my kids what gives them hope, my 10-year-old tells me, I don't know, Ima. I'm not proud to be human. I take that in for a few days. Then I begin to tell them stories. I tell them about the years of imagining and pleading that led to 50 tiny homes, about the volunteers who have cooked a free meal outside City Hall every single Monday for the last 18 years, about Jews shutting down Central Station saying, not in my name, about how at 7 o'clock this morning, Peter Baroian stood arm to arm to disarm, blockaded an electronics manufacturer chanting ceasefire now, that most of the workers turned around and went home. I will keep telling them. I will keep telling myself about the people who make things happen that others said could not be done. There will be no return to normal, no end to the wildfires. The glaciers will not miraculously grow back. No protest will single-handedly put an end to genocide. But I tell my children the importance of dreams, that all these sacrifices we make, all these risks we take, all these tears we cry on behalf of people we don't even know, these are the proof that we are all connected, that our capacity for transformation is at least as great as our capacity for destruction. So we paint signs together. We say none are free until all are free. We say a just world is possible. We say there is enough here for everyone. I may not be saying Happy New Year, but I do wish you a new hope for a time in which all is shared, all are fed, and all are free. I see you in that future. I see you in these dreams. And on the days I am able to rise from my bed, on those days, my friends, I will see you in the streets. Thank you.
As Ziza said, in hard times, the reason we feel so much is that we know a better world is possible. And optimism is the radical knowing that we can rise to the occasion. And so we're going to sing. The words for this chant-like piece are printed in your order of service. Ruben's going to teach it to us. And as we get into it, Ruben and Julie will add some harmonies, I think. So please rise in body and or spirit.
The words are in the order of service. In these hard times, there will always be singing. always be singing in these hard times. It's a phrase that we sing through twice with one very small difference at the end. So I'll sing for you the first phrase and invite you to sing it back. In these hard times, there will always be singing, always be singing in these hard times. Here we go.
In these hard times, there will always be singing, always be singing in these hard times.
Good. One small difference for the second phrase. Listen to this. In these hard times, there will always be singing, always be singing in these hard times. Here we go. In these hard times, there will always be singing, always be singing in these hard times. Good. We'll sing this through several times, and like Reverend Julie said, I may add an extra part, but you can keep singing the melody. Here we go.
In these hard times, there will always be singing, always be singing in these hard times. In these hard times, there will always be singing, always be singing in these hard times. In these hard times, there will always be singing, always be singing in these hard times. In these hard times, there will always be singing, always be singing in these hard times. In these hard times, there will always be singing, always be singing in these hard times. In these hard times, there will always be singing, always be singing in these hard times. In these hard times, there will always be singing, always be singing in these hard times. In these hard times, there will always be singing, always be singing in these hard times. In these hard times, there will always be singing, always be singing in these hard times. In these hard times, there will always be singing, always be singing in these hard times.
Always be singing, yes, in these hard times. Yes, there will always be singing, always be singing in these hard times.
We make time on most Sundays to share pieces of our lives with one another. We do this as part of the ministry that we do together in order to be present to one another in our grief, in our challenges, and in our joy. That's all that's required of us, to be present, to give praise and thanks for the lives that we have. In a moment, you'll be invited to come to this mic to share what is exciting or joyful or painful or worrisome in your life. If you're online and you'd like me to light a candle for you, you can text me. What you share aloud here is only heard by those gathered now. It will not be included in the posted video of the service. And you can also share something in writing on that yellow slip you got when you came in, or using the QR code, or through the e-news for those of you online. And what you share that way will be shared just as you indicate, either in the e-news in the coming week, or with our lay pastoral care team, or with me. So if you'd like to share aloud, come here to the mic. If you wish to remain seated, you can raise your hand and an usher will bring you a mic. I'll light a candle for you, and after each sharing, I'll invite you to respond with me We hold you in love. So, for those of you who'd like to share, come now. March 21st, coming up in a few days, is International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. And it begins actually a week of solidarity with people struggling against racism and racial discrimination. So this candle is for all of you and for all of us who wish to support you and to change that. We hold you in love. This is a candle for all of you online. We know you're out there. We're glad you're with us. This is for you and whatever you're holding, whatever joys and concerns are residing within you. You're not alone. We're here. And one final candle for all the unspoken things that remain, that reside within us, that you may know, whatever you're holding, whatever you're carrying, that you are not alone, that we're here for you, and we hold you in love. You know, the month of Ramadan, the month of Ramadan began last Sunday. It's a time for our Muslim siblings to offer prayers day and night, and to offer gratitude and to care for those who are suffering. Ramadan is a time to get closer to God and to become more conscious, both of the suffering of the world and the blessings that are often taken for granted. Now, usually the month is greeted with happiness, but this year, many Muslims are considering what it means to fast when so many people are starving and who can't get a meal at the end of the day. The Consider This podcast from NPR this week interviewed Muslims about what they were praying for, which of course included prayers for a ceasefire, for no more bombings of civilians, for the people of Palestine. And during this Ramadan, everyone is aware of the immense suffering, which means that every Muslim feels that they are Palestinian, suffering together. And they're channeling their community sadness into solidarity with the people of Gaza. This prayer was written by Laura Cowton and was posted in the Canadian Unitarian Council's Facebook page this last week. And I invite you to join me in the spirit of compassionate meditation. Spirit of compassion, source of life, God of many names. We gather today in gratitude for our many blessings, for being in community, for the terrible violence on one another. We seek solace in our seeming powerlessness. We hold in our embrace those hiding in shelters and mourning the deaths of loved ones, the tattered fabric of their lives. We pray for those with power to create peace, that they may recognize the fragile and valuable humanity of those across from them and come to see how we are all one. Holy Spirit of mercy, may all who seek comfort and safety find themselves in a place with no fear or hatred, and may all who suffer in pain or in anger be held in gentle, loving care to ease and heal their wounds. As we seek to build the beloved community, may we ever be guided by our faith in the ability of love to conquer injustice, and in our ability to love beyond belief. May it be so. Amen.
When things are bad, when there are tragedies, it often happens that help shows up. As today's story said, just telling someone they are not alone is not sufficient. There is also a call to show up, to be present to the pain and the suffering and the need. Nature can teach us something of that. I'm going to share an excerpt from Robin Wall Kimmerer's book, Braiding Sweetgrass: Indigenous Wisdom, Scientific Knowledge, and the Teachings of Plants. It comes from her chapter on lichens, or umbilicaria, which she calls the belly button of the world. A lichen, she says, is not one being, but two, a fungus and an alga, two things that are as different as could be, and yet are joined in symbiosis, so close that together they become a whole new organism. Here's the excerpt. The fungal algae symbiosis so blurs the distinction between individual and community that it has attracted a great deal of research attention. Some pairs are so specialized they cannot live apart from one another. Scientists are interested in how the marriage of alga and fungus occurs, and so they try to identify the factors that induce two species to live as one. But when researchers put the two together in the laboratory and provide them with ideal conditions for both alga and fungus, they give each other the cold shoulder and proceeded to live separate lives in the same culture dish, like the most platonic of roommates. The scientists were puzzled and began to tinker with the habitat, altering one factor and then another, but still no lichen. It was only when the scientists severely curtailed the resources, when they created harsh and stressful conditions, that the two would turn toward each other and begin to cooperate. Only with severe need did the hyphae curl around the alga. Only when the alga was stressed did it welcome the advances. When times are easy and there's plenty to go around, individual species can go it alone. But when conditions are harsh and life is tenuous, it takes a team sworn to reciprocity to keep life going forward. In a world of scarcity, interconnection and mutual aid become critical for survival. So say the lichens.
4 years ago today, March 17th, 2020, I was abruptly ending some months of sabbatical time in order to return to work with my congregation, who, like everyone in the world, had just been thrown into the unknown. It had been not quite a week since the World Health Organization had declared the global COVID outbreak a pandemic. Just 3 days earlier, I had been in Vancouver, BC with a friend. What had been planned as a fun adventure had turned into anxious days of watching the news and worrying about whether or not we would even be allowed to travel home. The ground under us, all of us, was shifting. Where were you on March 17th, 2020? What was happening in your world? Perhaps things in the service have already caused you to reflect, but just take a moment to see if you can reconnect with where you were, how you were being impacted, and what it felt like. March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, 4 years ago. Remember how we thought it would be over in a couple of weeks? And then remember when in those moments that it seemed most desolate, we looked for how we would be changed, how the world would be different because of this collective traumatic experience. For me, that thinking was a great place of refuge, to imagine that we would never return to the harried, frantic pace of the competitive accomplishment and ambition-driven lives that we'd become accustomed to, that we were learning, unfortunately in isolation, how to be quiet and still and how to pay attention. That somehow we were becoming more spiritual, more in touch with our inner true selves, and we would never return to normal, whatever that might mean. In her poem this year, Ziza also claimed that there would be no return to normal, that somehow out of every terrible situation we can learn and live a better way, more closely aligned with the world of which we dream. And yet, here we are. Do you feel that way? Do you feel that your life was changed by the pandemic? If so, in what ways? In a TED Talk about why change is so scary, cognitive scientist Maya Shankar talks about when we experience unexpected change on the outside, it also inspires change within us. She says that we become different people on the other side of change, that change can expand us rather than limit us, or at least that there's potential in that place to be transformed. Now, for the most part, I'm not sure that the pandemic substantially expanded us or moved us away from the aspects of normalcy we had hoped to put behind us. It sort of seems like we were stretched almost beyond our capacity to survive, and that as soon as we could, we retracted, not to a new normal, but rather, it's like we were trying really hard to recreate what was, in order to forget those hard times. I know that we can easily name how we were hurt by the pandemic. The ones we lost, the impacts on school and learning, the retreat from socializing, the lasting consequences of the strain on the healthcare system. But is anyone still talking about potential positive impacts or about what we learned? How do we respond to undesirable changes around us? How can we use change to transform ourselves in more desirable directions? I'm going to share with you a few things that I've come across just in the last couple of days that might provide a little insight. This past week, Tim Berners-Lee, the inventor of the World Wide Web, and who happens to be a UU, posted an open letter marking the web's 35th anniversary. In it, he spoke of his initial intentions in forming the World Wide Web, which were to allow for collaboration, to foster compassion, and to generate creativity. And while the first decade of the web fulfilled that promise, He says the last decade has seen the web play a role in vastly eroding those values. And Berners-Lee says, the future hinges on our ability to both reform the current system and create a new one that genuinely serves the best interests of humanity. To achieve this, we must shift away from polarizing content to an environment shaped by a diversity of voices and perspectives that nurture empathy and understanding, unquote. Berners-Lee sees that how we operate and live within the World Wide Web is changing us, and not in positive ways. He's calling for a shift in our collective mindset from one dictated by profit to one that's dictated by the needs of humanity. He says, the time to act and embrace this transformative potential is now. Here's another. In a recent episode in the Search Engine podcast, they featured an interview with journalist Ezra Klein. They were talking about how to survive the media apocalypse. And what that is they say these times when independent journalism is being squeezed out and access to nonpartisan news is becoming more and more limited. Unlike the pandemic, this change in how we get our media, and like the changes in the World Wide Web, are happening almost without notice, and yet they're hugely impactful. And so Ezra Klein speaks of how what we consume, what we choose to consume, matters, that what we're willing to pay for matters. He says we have to be willing to actually live in the kind of world of which we dream, which for him means thinking and living more collectively, and advises us not to give our attention to what we don't want to become. Here's one more example of changes happening around us and how we might be changed. I just read an interview Courtney Martin did with Garrett Bucks about his new book, The Right Kind of White, which comes out next week. Bucks talked about the national reckoning for liberals, perhaps beginning with the 2016 election, and then kind of exploding with George Floyd's murder in 2020. And he feels like we're still stuck in that same dispiriting, tragic gear, churning over our racial and class and gender reckoning, and unable to move forward or to be truly transformed. I can't get into the message of his book today. For one thing, of course, I haven't read it. It's not out yet. But I mentioned this interview because of how he spoke of the motivation for writing the book. Buck said that we are holding two things that are equally true. We dream of a country that's more just and more beloved, and we wrestle with the reality of the path ahead, the path ahead to get to a more just and beloved place. Actually means we have to do something different. Buck sees an amazing organizing potential in this shared cognitive dissonance, and he suggests that we speak openly with one another, to just face that dissonance, and to talk to one another in ways like this. You know, I don't know what this moment really requires of me. In a lot of ways, it really scares me. Do you feel that way too? If so, what does that make us want to do? Bucks is saying that to move toward changes we wish to see requires more togetherness and more honesty. Now, in the TED Talk I mentioned earlier, Maya Shankar offers 3 questions to explore when we encounter unexpected changes or challenges. She says that if we can stay open to how we might possibly be changed or internally expanded, that openness in and of itself can help us to not only weather the change, but also to become the people we want to be, living the lives we want to live. Her questions are these. How might this change what we're capable of? How might this change what we value? How might this change how we define ourselves? How underneath each of these explorations of the changes swirling around us, the pandemic, the media apocalypse, the denigration of the World Wide Web, the arms proliferation, so many others, there lies for me a deep belief in our potential to be transformed, and how in that individual transformation we do change collectively. How might these changes change what we're capable of? The late Elandria Williams, who was co-moderator of the Unitarian Universalist Association, wrote at the time of the pandemic that in this great turning, in this great pandemic, in this radical readjustment and realignment, we are not disposable. We are needed. We are the very people that have withstood everything that's been thrown at us as a people. And as Maya Angelou would say, still I rise, unquote. How might these changes change what we value? Are we able to attend to the world differently? Maybe we can turn away from individualism and turn toward community. Maybe we can turn away from greed and turn toward ensuring that everyone has enough. Maybe we can stop hurrying so much and just watch the purple crocuses push their way through the muddy ground. How might these changes change how we define ourselves? Well, I don't know. Not yet. But I hope that we're beginning to understand ourselves as connected by sturdy threads to all living things, to see ourselves as individuals who join ourselves in such close symbiosis that new possibilities emerge, to understand ourselves as the one who say, "You're not alone, I'm here." I hope that we can define ourselves as those who make intentional choices to live in the world of which we dream. Let me close by returning to some of Ziza's words. There will be no return to normal, no end to the wildfires. The glaciers will not miraculously grow back. No protest will single-handedly put an end to genocide. But I tell my children the importance of dreams, that all these sacrifices we make, all these risks we take, all these tears we cry on behalf of people we don't even know, these are proof that we are all connected, that our capacity for transformation is at least as great as our capacity for destruction. So we paint signs together. We say never again for anyone. We say a just world is possible. We say there is enough here for everyone. And we say, you're not alone. I'm here. May it be so, and may it be so. Amen.
This is the year for making changes. This is the year for moving on. This is the year of overcoming. This is the year of growing strong. This is the year for a new way of thinking. This is the year for making plans. This is the year for reaching out. This is the year for joining hands. Gone are the lonely nights of yearning. Gone are the dark and cloudy skies. All the unsteady bridges burning. All of the doubt and all of the lies. This is the chance to recapture the power. This is a time to abandon the fear. This is the moment, the finest hour. This is the year, this is the year. This is the year that I put into action all my desires and all of my means. This is the year that I follow my passion. This is the year of my dreams. This is the year I'm letting go of all of the things I tried to change. This is the ones I turn it over. This is the year I look above. This is the year that I take my intention, turn it away from distraction and talk. This is the year I take the step, and this is the year I walk the walk. This is the year that I put into action all my desires and all of my means. This is the year that I follow my passion. This is the year of my dreams. This is the year I make it happen. This is the year I follow through. This is the year I move ahead on all of the things I want to do. This is the chance to renew my commitment. This is the time to be conscious and clear. This is the time, this is the moment for living fully. This is the year, this is the year. This is the year, this is the year.
Me? I know you can't hear me. Oh, here it is, this one. Oh, done. Okay, good. Oh, wonderful. Okay. As you know, each month we give half of all undesignated offerings to a local nonprofit to help serve human needs and live our UU values. This month, with a suggestion from Split the Plate team member Kathy Lake, our Split the Plate partner is Courage Milwaukee. Their mission is to help all LGBTQ plus youth in the greater Milwaukee area be successful. And with us today is Marissa Bray, Director of Operations, to tell us more. Welcome, Marissa.
Thank you, Kathy. I'm going to put that up a little bit. Well, I can do this. I'll do this.
Oh, no, we can put it up.
Does it go up?
Yeah, I think it does.
I'm very tall.
No.
Good morning, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. I have to tell you before I start to tell you about Courage, my heart is so full. Had I known that church could be like this, it would have saved me a lot of years of suffering. I have had goosebumps. I have had tears in my eyes. Thank you so much for sharing this space with me today. I think that the universe aligned so that I would be here because I wasn't supposed to be here, so thank you. So Courage Milwaukee is a big part of my heart. I've been there for almost a year now. We are not just a nonprofit, but a movement. We're a feeling. We consider our supporters and our donors and the youth that we serve to be our family. We call it our Courage family. And the biggest thing that we do is we provide housing. We have a lot of other programs, a grants program, scholarships, give back programs. That's one of the biggest and best things, in my opinion, that we do, is that we give back to our community and we make sure that the youth that we serve know that they should too. But the one thing that I want to focus on today is the fact that we just opened our second location on Friday. Did anyone see the news? So we're really excited. 5 years ago this month, we opened the first and only group homes to this day in the state of Wisconsin for queer youth, ages 12 to 18. Those youth come through the foster care system. They've been in juvenile detention, mental health facilities, etc. And they come to us, and we're usually the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th stop for them. And so these kids are coming to us with a lot of trauma, and we affirm them. And I love that you all have pronouns that made me so excited today. My pronouns are she, hers, by the way. And so in order for these youth to heal and begin to start their journey of becoming an adult, they have to be affirmed. And so that's why we have opened that group home. Well, in the 5 years that we've had this group home, we started to have youth come back once they age out and say, I still don't know what to do. I don't know how to take meds. I don't know how to make mac and cheese. And there are people who want to take advantage of me, and I can't get a job because I'm trans, and all of these things, right, that young adults have stacked against them, and tenfold when they are LGBTQ+. So we decided that we were going to open a second location dedicated to 18 to 24-year-olds. And I'm really, really proud of that. I know you said 2 minutes, so I'll try to wrap this up. The second location, so it's a model that has never been done in the state of Wisconsin before, ever. Not just because it serves only queer youth, but because it's a transition home that seeks to create a safe space, trauma-informed care for young adults who must have a job to live there or get a job, attend case management, mental health services if they need it, et cetera, et cetera. The goal being that you can't just stick somebody in a house and hope that they will thrive. They need the love and the commitment and the arms wrapped around them so that they can become independent and they have a new trajectory in life. As many of you know, or don't know, the rates are much, much higher of sex trafficking, drug use, addiction, mental health issues, physical health issues in the queer community. And so when people ask us, well, why specifically queer housing? Because there's a much higher need for it. And so the goal is to have as much Courage housing in the state of Wisconsin as we can. We don't just serve Milwaukee, we serve all of Wisconsin, even though we're called Courage Milwaukee. And so our impact is growing. We're a growing nonprofit, and we're so excited about the work that we're doing and the people that have joined us in our movement. So thank you for having us today. This has meant so much to me, and I will be out. I'll join you all for coffee. I have buttons and bracelets and pamphlets and things, so just come find me, and thank you again for having me.
Thank you, Marissa. And I think, we can subtract those nice words you said from the time, so it would only be your message that would, because, that would seem to be only fair. Okay, your offering today will help support Courage Milwaukee. You can also go to the UUCW website and click on the Donate tab, or you can send your message. You can text UUCW to that number, or you can mail to that address. So you have no excuse for not supporting Courage Milwaukee. Thank you. Today we thank you for your generosity.
Thank you. So please join me in the words of dedication found in your order of service and on the screen. To the work of this community, which is to ground ourselves in love and joy and to act for inclusion and justice, we dedicate ourselves, and these are offerings. Given all that's happening in the world, it can be difficult to know what to do. And, of course, difficult to know how to pray, how to dream. This poem by Mary Oliver speaks to what prayer might possibly mean. It's called I Happened to Be Standing, and it was published in her book, 1,000 Mornings. I don't know where prayers go or what they do. Do cats pray while they sleep half asleep in the sun? Does the possum pray as it crosses the street? The sunflowers, the old black oak growing older every year. I know I can walk through the world along the shore or under the trees with my mind filled with things of little importance in full self-attendance. A condition I can't really call being alive. Is a prayer a gift or a petition, or does it matter? The sunflowers blaze. Maybe that's their way. Maybe the cats are sound asleep. Maybe not. While I was thinking this, I happened to be standing just outside my door with my notebook open, which is the way I begin every morning. Then a wren in the privet began to sing. He was positively drenched in enthusiasm. I don't know why. And yet, why not? I wouldn't persuade you from whatever you believe or whatever you don't. That's your business. But I thought of the wren singing. What could this be if it isn't a prayer? So I just listened, my pen in the air. And so we sing as a prayer, as an acknowledgement of the gift of life, the gift of possibility, and the privilege of being alive. Please rise in body and or spirit to join in singing Jason Shelton's Life Calls Us On. You'll find the music printed in your order of service.
Let's try that key.
Here in reverence now we gather for the blessings we have known, with a pledge to one another that we journey not alone. Joy and sorrow make us one. To love that song. Please remain standing for our benediction, for which I invite you to join hands if you are comfortable doing so. Before we close, let's say a silent word of thanks, especially this morning for Lynn, for Julie and her music, for Karen's reading, for our excellent staff, our RE volunteers, and all the folks on today's hospitality teams. And if you want to chat with others about today's service, get your coffee and head up to UL 3. No, I don't know. UL 3 and UL 4. UL stands for upper level. One's 3, one's 4. For afterthoughts, because in the other room there'll be talk about finance. So anyway, afterthoughts or finance, you got your choice. These words were written by Anya Samler-Michael as a benediction for a people in pandemic, or when facing a challenge, which of course when you think about it is almost all the time. When faced with a challenge such as this, we can turn toward one another, or we can turn against. We can ignore the cries of our neighbors, or we can let them cry into the arms of our witness. We can respond with indifference to systemic injustice, or we can commit to its undoing. Good souls, tales will be told of how we responded when this particular hell was visited upon our earth. So let us know, and let it be said by generations to come, that when the pain of our separation was revealed, we moved closer to the promised land of our beloved community. Blessed be. Ashe. Amen.